I want to talk now about cables. I mean, why not? Why not? We talked about light bulbs. Tonight we're going to talk about cables. So the first one up is the bonnet release cable, and that's on the on the MGB and MGC and the midget. So the bonnet release cable, it works great until it doesn't. Until it doesn't. And then it's like, oh my God, what am I going to do? How am I going to get the bonnet open? On an MGB, you got to make a little hooked tool to get in there and grab and pull the thing open. Same thing with a midget. It's just horrible. Most often, you can grab the cable, pull the cable itself, and that will do it. On a midget, 1275 midget, 1500 midget too. Is that correct? You can reach at the top of the front of the left front fender and reach up inside there. The cable exits the inside of the bonnet for a short distance and does a little question mark kind of curve and goes back into the car. And you can get your fingers around that on the MG Midget and the Healy Sprite, of course, and pull that and get the bonnet to pop open. But why even worry about all that? Why not make sure that it's working properly? And this is especially true with the midget, whose bonnet cable moves under the battery box. It goes under the battery box. So anything that goes wrong with the battery, any kind of fulminations of the battery itself, and out comes that acid, drips on the cable, and makes it all but impossible to pull until it finally is impossible. So those you want to just keep it clean, just keep it sprayed down. WD-40 or something is fine. But the rest of these, before installing them, you got to be cautious about taking them apart afterwards, but you can do it as long as the end of the cable is not splayed and you can get out all the little variations in the end of the cable. You can pull the thing out, squirt oil down the cable until it's dripping on the inside of the bonnet, coat the entire length of the inner cable with grease. You don't do that in the beginning. You do it as you're pushing it back into the cable and push it through and turn it and push it and turn it and push it and turn it and get it all the way through there so that you are completely um, covered. The cable on the inside of the outer sheath and the outside of the cable itself is completely covered in oil and grease. Oil and grease are your friends. Now, if you don't do this, you at least have to get some spray grease and spray that cable, spray the length of the cable, and then exercise it. Exercise it, pulling that cable, pulling the bonnet cable 50 times. Extra spray it, not WD-40. That's not really a lubricant. It'll freeze stuff up. It's better than nothing, but it's not long lasting. And spray grease makes a mess, but you can wipe it off with a rag. Matter of fact, when you spray the grease on the inner fender there and wipe it off, it looks better. So even though it leaves a sort of a tacky film, it will get dirty faster. But you want to exercise and lubricate that cable. That was part of our complete lubrication list. Speaking of lubrication lists, last week I sent out the note that we were not going to have our Zoom session. And I sent out a picture of a guy's MGA whose right front wheel had collapsed. I'm sure everybody saw that and went, oh my God, what happened? The shock came off the mounting points. So in our complete lubrication at University Motors, which we had every suggested you do once every 5 years or once every 12,000 miles. Included in that, with greasing the seat slides and greasing the bonnet cable and greasing the front suspension and adjusting the rear brakes, was tightening the front shocks. I've only known two cases where the front shock has come off the vehicle. One was at speed with a TD someplace in the state of Illinois. That was a surprise, and that wheel fell outwards. Of course, when it does that, it tears it pulls uh, the brake hose apart, and you have no brakes. So anyway, just as an aside, tighten up your shocks. Um, Why doesn't the MGA have a bonnet cable, and why can't you put one on there? Why not put one on there? The MGA bonnet release is a bunch of long rods that pivot and can work with great difficulty. I don't think I've ever seen an MGA with a bonnet cable, but starting to prepare for this, I thought, why not? I mean, I wouldn't do it because I want my car to be original. But why not do it? It sounds pretty good. I have seen bonnet release cables for MGA boot lids. That's pretty handy. That's pretty handy for sure. So anyway, those cables can be adapted for other uses, of course. Next one up is the Speedo cable. Okay, so the Speedo cable, and we talked about lubricating the Speedo cable, and I was supposed to go online. Just a moment. I was supposed to go online to see what we should use to lubricate a Speedo cable. I saw white grease, I saw graphite. And I thought, but how are you going to get graphite into the outer sheath on the cable? How are you going to lubricate that cable? And the only thing I could think of easily was to take the cables, if it's off the car, before you put it on, or even after it's on, I guess, and hook the end of the cable with some masking tape to your shop vac. So you're trying to suck an entire vacuum cleaner's worth of air through the cable, and then just push in graphite, and that will move the graphite all the way down the outer side of, or the inner side of the sheath, so that your speedo cable can work better. There must be other ways to do it. Other people will have some ideas pretty soon. In 75 and 76, there's a counter on the MGBs, and that counter counts off 49,000 miles in percentage. Once you hit the 49,000 miles, then a little light goes on your console that says EGR, and it's to remind you to take your charcoal canister out of the car, purge the charcoal, put in new charcoal. You're supposed to take it to the dealer. But those counters, that means that there's a counter halfway between the gearbox and the speedometer. Better just plumb right through it. So on MGBs 68 through 76 that you've got any kind of problem with, or if you want to get rid of the 90-degree angle drive down on the gearbox, because those fail, you can get an overdrive cable. The Smith's part numbers, what, 27, 2738, 1830. The 1830 is 1.830 meters. So it's a pretty long cable. It's almost 6 foot long. And you can allow that on a big radius underneath, so that you can get out. You don't have to use that 90-degree drive, and you can bring it up to the back of the Speedo straight through. 68 through what, 71, they bring the cable in from the right-hand side as though it were a right-hand drive car, and then move that cable all the way across the dash, put it into another 90-degree drive, and bring it, to drive the Speedo. That's two 90-degree drives. If you're rebuilding your car, if you have the chance, just get rid of that and bring the cable straight in through the firewall, through the hole that now holds the small rubber tube for the windshield washers. You can bring that right into the back of the Speedo. So just don't go through tight radiuses. Again, it's a 68 through 76 overdrive MGB cable. That's the longest cable that's available. That's really handy for those applications. Talk about handbrake cables. So most of my discussion here is about MGBs, because that's where most of the cars are. But remember that in the MGA and the MGB And the MGC, we've got a bunch of different models. We've got MGAs, we've got MGA twin cams, we've got MGBs with banjo rear axle, we've got MGBs with tube type rear axles, we've got wire wheels, we've got disc wheels, and we got a couple more changes in cables from 67 through 1980. So there's as many cables as there are variations times two because of the wire and disc wheels. So there's like 8 or 10 different cables out there. And you lay them on the ground, they all look the same. Now I think in the Moss catalog, or available maybe on the Moss website, is a nice diagram, and it tells you how many inches from the front of the cable to the rear of the cable and so forth. But when you order a new cable to put on your car, if you do, make sure that you lay it out next to the old cable, because after it's all in place, if it's too long or too short, you can solve the problem, especially if it's too short. But it's just a bugger. But before you go to put this new cable on the car, or if you have an old cable on the car, the handbrake cable, which are most of them are stiff. I mean, just to be fair, come on, most of them work with some difficulty. You need 3 people, if it's on the car, to exercise the cable. Seems like a lot, but follow me through. In the case of an MGB, MGC, MGA, we take the left rear wheel off, disconnect the handbrake cable from the handbrake levers. There's a 5/16 clevis pin there that should pull out, drive it out, something. Then you can grab the end of the handbrake cable with a big pair of vice grips. Someone's underneath the car with a grease gun, with a grease gun attached to the zerk on the outer sheath of the cable. Now you got somebody inside to pull the cable all the way up, and someone on the outside to pull the cable back all the way off. So someone's got to call out the commands up, down. Although after a little bit, you get into a rhythm and it's once every 2 seconds and you don't have to keep calling cadence. But somebody pulls it up, somebody pulls it off. Up, back, up, back, up, back. In the meantime, who's ever lying underneath the car on their back with a grease gun in their hand very slowly introduces grease into the cable. And if you do it long enough, you'll get fresh grease to emanate from both ends of the cable, up at the front next to the passenger seat or driver's seat if it's right-hand drive, or and also at the swing assembly at the rear. And that once that thing is full of grease like that, you aren't going to have any more trouble with it. You only have to do that probably once. It's always a good idea to grease the cable during any kind of lubrication, but really to give it a heavy duty exercise is so handy, and you sure want to do that before you install any new cable. Just make sure that it is that sheath is full of grease, and then it won't jam up on you. Oh my gosh. So the adjusting the handbrake cable, you get the handbrake cable in place after it's all greased up and so forth, and then you adjust the rear brakes. On the MGC, that is with the handbrake lever, unless those are broken, and then you have to look through the drum and turn the wheel with a screwdriver. On MGAs, there's a micram adjuster, and you turn that all the way. Then on the MGBs, there is a 1/4 inch square that's available at the inside of the rear backing plate. It's a 1/4 inch square. You can use a 1/4 inch square socket or an 8-point bi-square socket. Unscrew that adjuster all the way, gob it with grease, screw it all the way in until you can't turn it. Don't break it off, and then back it off quarter turn by quarter turn until the wheel just runs free. Theoretically, the distance between fully locked and fully free is about 2/4 of a turn. It isn't much. Then, after all that, then you can hook up the handbrake cable and adjust it with that brass nut with a deep 9/16 wrench underneath the handbrake. And the workshop manual on the MGB and MGA says that the handle should come up 3 clicks. Click, click, click. Well, if you're in a right-hand drive car and you're reaching down with your left arm pulling up on that handbrake, sure, 3 clicks, that's great. But but if you're in an American car, and you're reaching over the tunnel and trying to pull it up, 3 clicks ain't enough. You got to get that thing up at about a 30-degree angle. So just set the handbrake to where it's comfortable
Well, I think I was on there.
for you.
Let's just say from there.
And there's my mute all button. That's what I use it for. So that's the handbrake.
Fourth American. Of course, there is
We're
the
having a hard
this
time
one.
here. Somebody keeps unmuting, but I'm going to keep fighting them here. So the T-type handbrake cables are quite different. TD and TF. Those are individually adjusted. They sometimes have grease zerk, sometimes not. You would grease them in the same manner. Excuse me. But when you go to adjust them, you've got someone in the car who pulls it up to the first click, and then you're in back feeling both wheels. Okay, they're both still free. Pull it to the second click. Yep, they're both still free. Third click. Oh, they're both dragging. Fourth click. They're both locked. Well, what usually happens is 1 click, 2 clicks, one of them keeps turning, one of them keeps spinning, and the other one locks up. So then you have to go in with your 3/8 British socket and adjust the brass nut on the just right there at the handbrake lever so that the wheels stop at the same time. If you pull up on your handbrake on a T-type, you should stop in a straight line. If you're going off to the left or you're off to the right, when you pull up on the handbrake, that means that one of them isn't adjusted the same as the other. So
John, that's not a BA branch, is it?
what's
British.
that? No,
That's not a
not
B.
BA. No, 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 no. Those are tiny little things. Um, those like quarter-inch drive. Yeah, that's tiny little stuff. No,
Yeah, or
BSF,
but
British Standard Fine.
oh, okay. Thank
Now we're over to the throttle cable, and I just want to say first of all about the throttle cable and the choke cable. If they suddenly one day one or both become sticky, it just doesn't feel it's notchy. Something's wrong. What's wrong is that you've lost the ground to your engine. And when the starter motor operates, the starter motor, which draws an enormous amount of current, is hunting for a good ground. And if it hasn't got a good ground through a ground strap, it's going to send that electricity anywhere it can, and it will send it between the inner and outer sheaths on the choke and the throttle cable. And they'll jam up. Back in the day, we you get an MG midget and or a bug eye sprite, and you'd pull the starter motor on it, and at the same time you're pulling it, you'd watch the temp gauge just rise up, and you go, "What is going on?" Well, it's looking for a ground, and it found the ground in the capillary tube on that mechanical
That's pretty appealing.
safety
I see why you
gauge.
bought the place more.
A lot of background noise tonight. So anyway, the throttle cable, when you install it on all the models prior to the Stromberg. You can install it while the engine's turned off, and you want to allow just a tiny little bit of free play, just a tiny, tiny little bit of free play that you can judge by grabbing the outer sheath of the cable and pulling it up and down next to the heater box. You just got to have some free play. The less the free play, the better. And you also want to make certain that when you do have your foot all the way to the floor, that the throttle is in fact all the way open. So this is a two-person project. Somebody has to sit inside, put their right foot on the throttle, press it all the way to the floor, and then you go over to the carburetor and see if you can open up the throttle discs anymore. Most often you can't. But if you can, then something needs to be adjusted. There's a pedal positioner a pedal positioning bolt on an MGB to reduce the amount of free play there. And then when you install a new throttle cable, usually you can't do this to a used one because by the time you've tightened up that AUC 4667, is that it? The cable stop, it splays the wires on the end. I'm told that the new cables that are coming from our major supplier are better than ever because they are welded at the end and the cables won't splay. But if you get some splayed cables, it's tough. Very often when I'm working with a throttle cable and I see a couple of wires are broken, I'll pull the entire cable out of the sheath, unwrap those two or three faulty wires because all they're going to do is jam up, cut them off, lubricate it, put it all the way back through. But of course, now the throttle cable doesn't have the diameter that it usually did or used to have. And new cables are inexpensive, and you want to shoot them full of oil and also put grease on the cable itself so it moves nice and freely. The There we go. No, I'm going to try that again. Okay, so then on the Stromberg carburetors, you cannot adjust the position of the throttle cable until the engine is idling. Not a hot idle, just a normal idle. So you can get the right amount of position. You got two 7/16 nuts that you can move up and down on the outer sheath to control the position of the inner cable. So on the Stromberg, you've got to adjust it after it's idling. You can get it close. Um, but very often, one of the reasons that a car idles too high is because there's no free play in the throttle cable. Choke cable. The choke cable, here we got a cable that its operation is counterintuitive. And that is that when you pull on the cable, it's on an MGB, on an MGA, the inner cable moves and it pulls up the brass levers and drops the jets and does what it's supposed to. But on the MGB and the MGC, the inner cable appears to remain fixed, and it's the outer cable which actually does the movement. It's like, how does this even work? But it does, so don't argue with it. Just try to understand it. And again, when you're putting these cables in, you should always coat them with grease and oil. Just do it. So when you put the choke cable in, most of the T-type and MGA choke cables lock to the left. The original ones, very few of them left, but they originally turn the cable to the right, withdraw it from the dash, let it turn back to the left, and it will lock into one of several positions that are cut into the brass shaft that makes up the cable. The newer cables lock in an infinite number of positions along their length. And they're finally doing that again, I'm told. There was a batch from several suppliers that worked great for like the first three times you locked the choke, and then it wouldn't lock anymore. So you can use clothespins underneath. I mean, hey, there's always a dollar solution. Use a clothespin underneath the cable to hold it out. But the more modern cables lock to the right. So you pull them out, turn them to the right, and they lock. Now, so you want it to naturally be loaded to the right. You don't want the cable turned or twisted to cause it to unlock. You want it to turn it to lock. So in the case of an MGB under the bonnet, when the cable comes up, you put a 90-degree bend in it and then turn it anti-clockwise, counterclockwise, maybe two turns, allow for the free play, lock it down there, and then when you go into the car and you turn the cable anti-clockwise, it'll snap back clockwise. It'll be loaded to the right. A real handy trick. MGAs have door release cables. Um, I've never lubricated mine, never even thought about them. But John Clark and I were sitting around the other day talking about all the different cables that there were in the cars, and we came up with the MGA MGA door release cables. So I don't know if there's any maintenance on those or not. You don't even need an inner cable or an outer cable. You just use a piece of string if you have to. It'll work. It's a lot nicer when it looks like a short throttle cable. Makes it look original. On a Midget 1500, that's 1975 through 1979, to keep the engine from shifting fore and aft, the government had in place all kinds of rules about demanding that the engine not be free floating, and it would stay relatively attached to the chassis in the case of a collision. So since most collisions, the weight of the engine is moving forward, you've got to keep it from going there. So there's a cable, not as big around as your little finger, but still like a really big cable that goes between the rear engine bearing plate and the chassis. So when you're putting the Midget 1500 engine back into place, you get everything all into place. It's all setting just like it should. And then you put the slightest tension on that cable. You can put way too much tension on it, and then you're trying to pull it off its mounts towards the rear. You don't want to do that. You just want to put the tiniest amount of tension on it so it stays there. So I think that's it. I think I've talked about cables. I haven't talked about battery cables because they carry electricity. It's a different kind of cable. We'll talk about those another time. And anyway, it's quarter to 8 o'clock at night, and I've got questions on chat. But first of all, I'm interested. I'm interested, first of all, if anyone's put a bonnet cable on an MGA. I hazarded upon that as a thought today or yesterday, and I thought that's such a good idea. Such a good idea. It's not original, but such a good idea. Has anybody done that?
Why are you saying it's a good idea? I've got an MGA. It's got that rod.
Yeah.
I pull it, bonnet pops open.
Okay.
It seems to work. I'm of the ain't broke, don't fix school, and so. But you said several times that it would be better. Now the rod to the boot lid is too far behind the seat, so I've got a piece of I don't know, webbing attached to it, rope,
Okay.
if you will, so I can reach it. But it's still that same thing,
Sure.
a rod, and so I wonder why you are saying that the cable would be an improvement.
Because they changed to a cable eventually. Maybe it's because it's cheaper. Maybe because it wasn't so clanky. So that's a nice picture you got up there, Judd, of your front suspension. What did the arm take look like
Well,
there?
let's see. I've got a comment over here you can
Oh,
ignore.
okay.
That is off of one of our members'
That's a TD.
recently
That's a T type. It's a T type
as a
because
TD.
it's got a brass trunnion, and that's also a British Standard fine thread. That's not an American thread on there.
That's right. This is the lower swivel on the passenger side. And as you can see, there was some excessive wear on that stud. If
Yep.
you'll bear with me a second, I will show you the side of the A-frame arm that stud used to go through.
So this suspension is used from 1980, excuse me, from 1950 through 1980. In all that time, I've only ever seen one A-arm tear out. This is
Like
about as
that.
bad as they get worn because there's a nut on there and the nut catches on the underside of that 90-degree turn that the A-arm makes and it sits there. So why don't they all do that? Because the nut and bolt assembly are supposed to be fixed along with the distance tube snugly, tightly, inexorably affixed to the A-arms, and the swivel is supposed to pivot around them. But
Not on this one.
through lack of lubrication, the distance tube freezes to the bushing on the inside of the trunnion, so it can no longer turn. Something's got to turn. So the bolt and the A-arm together wear away. That's years and years of wear there. Another thing in our complete lubrication was to examine the front suspension, and you just look at the bolt, the bolt and the nut on those A-arms, and the bolt should be centered. It shouldn't be towards the top of the A-arm. If it is, you know that you got a condition like this. But
What we
again,
learned,
in
yeah,
50 years, I've only ever seen one tear out. So,
what we learned is when you put grease into that zerk fitting, it and you fill it, it comes out in, if it's working right, it comes out in two places because it greases the kingpin and it greases that
this,
distance or a piece. And
yep,
this wasn't doing it, and your analysis was exactly right. That distance tube was totally frozen up. The amazing thing is that I just happened to have up in a barn I've got a lower A pan or the whole A pan with the bars on it,
sure.
and the kingpin with swivels that were good and could be. So that day we got his car back on the road.
Yeah, good.
Hey, John,
Yes.
what about the tack cables? How do you take care of the
Well,
tachometer
the
cables?
tack cable is the same as the speedo cable. So I think that putting graphite in those is better than anything else. Because you don't want any oil or grease to be wound up into the inside of the clock, into the inside of the tack or the speedo. And almost always, a waving tack or a waving speedo when it's waving, back and forth between 70 and 55 miles an hour waving, is because the inner cable catches on the outer sheath, winds up, lets loose, catches, winds up, lets loose, catches, winds up, lets loose. And to keep it from catching, and once it starts catching, you usually can't, you got to replace the cable. But that's why the speedo waves. There's another particular fault with speedos that it'll appear to run at 70 miles an hour, and then it runs at 67 miles an hour, and then it's 70, and it's really slow going. And if you watch the odometer, now you're supposed to be watching the road, right? You're supposed to be watching for deer and children and bicycles and other vehicles, but if you have the opportunity, and your speedo is doing that, and you watch the trip odometer, you'll see that it slows down until that trip odometer is not linear. It goes in steps. And that trip odometer, there's a pawl that comes down and hits an eccentric. And it's the anyway, the speedo will slow down while it's groaning, trying to push that trip odometer. But nobody asked about that. I'm sorry, I took off on a tangent. So what's this green B here? I can't tell the year on that in the picture from Greg.
That's my that's my 68B that I've been working on for about 5 years now.
Oh, hey.
It's pretty close to being back on the road.
Oh, very nice. Very cool indeed. Okay.
Hey John.
Yes, Bill.
Hey, hey John.
Yes.
What do you do about a sticking tachometer? Mine sticks when I start, but I can tap on it and release it, or wait a minute or so, and then
Is
it
this a,
releases
is
it
a, is
by
this a
itself.
is this a rev counter or a tach? Is it mechanical
Sorry,
or
I've lost sound.
oh,
It's my end, not your end. Let me try and
okay.
get it back.
All right. So we'll wait for a minute here for Bill. I'll keep talking and see if Bill can get his sound back. So um
Okay, John,
yes.
Tom Gunderson, how are you?
Hey, great.
All right, you talking about the bonnet release cable?
Yes.
Well, you know this, the hood and the bonnet both have those rods. And what I did was went under the fender on the rear driver's side and drilled about a 3/16 hole that lined up with the rod where it turns 90 degrees. and goes to the
Very,
latch.
very nice.
And
Thank
then
you.
I took a bicycle brake cable,
Yep.
slid it through there, and then took a U bolt and connected it fairly close to the latch.
Okay.
Came out came out into the fender, and then made a small loop on the outside, right behind the tire. But there's plenty of room. And I did the very same thing on the front, and it works just fine.
An emergency release cable. All
That's correct.
TR6s, all TR6s, it's essential that you do that. You can do it out of a coat hanger. You can make it real fancy as you have with the bicycle brake cable. So yes, good idea. All TR6s need that because that bonnet latch is at the center at the back. I mean, if that cable breaks or comes loose or something, I mean, you're just SOL. So that extra cable there is so wonderfully handy. That's a real good idea, Tom. Thank you very much.
John, I have two questions if I can
Yeah.
ask it. This is Milt Babarak, and I have a TD. I have a couple of TDs, and on one of I just the first question is simple. I heard you say through most of your presentation that when you're lubricating a cable, you should just use a lot of spray grease and not WD-40 and spray it up and work it and make sure it's working freely. And then when you were talking about tacks and speedos, I heard you say to use graphite. And so I'm not sure which of the two, what I should do on my cables on my TD. And then my second question is my speedometer will stick, and it will just either stay at zero. It'll stay at zero, and finally, when it gets up to about 3,000 RPM, it'll start working again. And I don't know if it's the cable or if it's the instrument itself. Is there any way to tell?
So I'll take the second question first. So you got flat face instruments, chronometric instruments in your TD that jerk. They don't float.
I have chronometric, John. Chronometric.
Okay, so those are more complicated. And if it's sticking at certain points, it's probably because of the inside. It's like clockwork on the inside. The later speedos and rev counters have a whirling magnet and springs. But the chronometric ones are they defy my ability to explain how they work. So in the end, you end up having to send them someplace and have somebody attend to them. The chronometric instruments, if you're running along at 50 miles an hour and your cable fails, it'll stick there. It'll just stay there. It'll stay at 50. It won't come back down until you start spinning a new cable slower. Doesn't make any sense, but that's how they work. Going back to your first question, um, every cable in the car gets grease and oil except the speedo and tack cables. Those get graphite. And that's only because if the cable's wound in a certain way, God knows how they're wound, they should be wound to carry the grease and oil back down to the gearbox or back down to the engine or back into your 4.3 to 1 gear reduction box on the back of your dynamo. But if they're wound the other way, and who's to say which way they're wound, it'll carry grease up into the back of the speedometer. And when I used to talk to Bob at Neisinger Instruments, he's since long time passed away, and Neisinger Instruments no longer works on the instruments, although there's a place in New York that has taken their business for British, called British Speedo, I think. We talked about that once before. He'll do it. And there's still people, of course, in England who work with those old Smith's chronometric instruments. So I hope that's covered some of what's going on.
John, thank you very much. It does cover it and answers my question, both of
Great.
my questions. Thanks
Great.
again.
Thank you. Questions about cables?
Hey, John, Steve Shupak, could you just explain to me again what the difference between a tachometer and a rev counter is?
Okay,
So, sorry if I'm obtuse.
we lost. Yeah, I can't think of that. I did. I saw his name and he said he lost it. Yeah, because he said it was sticking. So a rev counter has a cable. So an MGA and an early Sprigget and an MGB up through the introduction of the 18 GB engine has a rev counter. Okay, but once they become electric, they're tachometers. This is like splitting hairs. What's the difference between a roadster and a convertible? Convertible's got roll-up windows. So, I mean, yeah, you got to draw a line someplace. So anyway, a rev counter is mechanical. A tachometer is electric.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
thanks.
All right.
Hey, John, it's Rob Nichols here.
Yes,
I've
sir.
got a 69 MGB. And how do you grease the cables that go to the heater box?
Oh, I didn't put those down. Oh my God. Thank you. Externally, once they're in place, you get spray grease. And all you can do is spray the length of them. But you also want to exercise them. If your instruments or excuse me, if your heater controls are working with great difficulty, then drop the controls out of the dashboard on an early B. That's hard because that's up, that's in the center of the steel dash. If you got a British right-hand drive, those are up in the dash. But otherwise, they're down by the steering wheel, as they would be on, it looks like on that white B that you got here, because
Yeah,
you
it's a 69. Yeah.
got triple wipers. So, oh, here's my note to remind everybody to go visit that PayPal button and help me help me afford to pay all the charges that come along with this. So, thank you very much. Anyway, back to the heater controls. If they're working with great difficulty, take for instance the temperature control on an MGB. You've got a control on the dash. You've got a cable, which is piano wire inside a
Right.
inside a flexible sheath, and then you've got the heater control valve on the side of the engine. So any
Right.
one of those can be stiff. So disconnect the heater control from the cable at the engine. Drop the unit out of the dash so that holds the cable and disconnect the cable from that. So how do you do that? If you look at the knobs on all the knobs, someplace 360 degrees, as you turn them around, you'll see a hole. Plunge into that
Yeah.
like a number six
Yeah.
finish
It's
nail.
like a spring clip or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
a little tiny pin, but you got to get in there with something real sharp and pull. Sometimes you got to
Right.
pull hard. So then that pops off. Underneath that, you need a 9/16 deep socket. There's a real thin nut and a lock washer and a flat washer, and then you grab a hold of the heater control behind the dash, shake the shit out of it, and get it down, and then now we're back to our BA wrenches, and you can use your 2BA and your 4BA sockets and wrenches to loosen the cable where it goes into the into the control. Take the control,
Right.
put it into a little saucer, a little something, and just coat it with oil. Just coat it
Yeah.
with oil.
Just dissolve all the grease and gunk off of it.
Sure. Do that, but oil it a lot, and then
Yeah.
you do not withdraw. You cannot withdraw the piano wire from the cable because you'll never get it back in again unless you use a new piece of piano wire. Even then, you might not be able to. So now you grab a hold of the inner cable with a pair of vice grips, spray the outer sheath with some kind of spray grease and move it back and forth 200 times. Spray it and move it, spray it and move it, spray it and move it, spray the heater control valve. Then then put it all back together and it should turn really easily. The flapper on the demister control, I could say defroster. They used that word later on, but I hope someone was spanked. There's no such thing as a defrost in an MGB. There is, however, a demist. At least judging from my experience in Michigan, driving my late wife's MGB GT every day of the year. There were sometimes, it'd be 5 degrees in the garage. You'd start that thing up, it'd start up okay, but it had only have 5 pounds of oil pressure, and then you'd wait. Pretty soon you got 10. Pretty soon you got 15 as the oil got more more viscosity, and the pump could suck it back up. Anyway, the heater control, again, you got a cable, you got the control on the dash. You can handle both those the same, but now you get a flapper down on the bottom of the heater box. That is accessible from the right-hand cockpit, the passenger side. We'd also say the passenger side, except for those few of us who've got right-hand drive cars. It's all accessible from the right-hand side, and you go up in there and you can look and you have your associate with a pair of vice grips move that cable in and out, and you can see that flapper swing back and forth. And again, all you can use is spray grease with a little nozzle or a little um,
Yeah.
yeah,
Uh,
one of those.
yeah, I just use it. I use if I'm using like something like LPS3 or something, with a little plastic
Yeah.
extension onto
Yes.
the sprayer.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
a real
and
believer in
yeah,
grease rather than anything
yeah,
else. But
yeah, and the flapper on mine is really, really stiff.
so
And
don't push and pull it then with the cable, because you'll break. It's a little tiny spot weld. There's two little spot welds and a little tiny angle piece of metal there. It'll tear it off. So instead, spray it from both sides as best as you can. Get in there with a pair of screwdrivers and force that flapper up way and force it the other way. And you can move it back and forth.
okay.
And it's
Yeah, because I mean, yeah, the heater one, I've done the same thing that you suggested, and it moves quite freely now. It's the other one with the flapper valve for the, I don't know, air intake on the front. Uh, but that seems to, I mean, I pulled it about 3 years ago, and cleaned the core. All the foam was gone in the core of the heater box.
okay.
And so I cleaned that all up and reverse flowed the heater matrix and all that stuff and put it back in again. But over the years, it just seems to, yeah, stiffen up on that flapper.
It's just like putting a nail through a piece of sheet metal. There's no hinge, there's no bearing. It's just as crude of an assembly as you can imagine. So it only needs a little bit of grease at the pivot point, if that's what's stiff. If it's a cable that's stiff, then you just got to get on the end of that with a pair of vice grips and spray the length of the cable and just exercise it 1,000 times. But be careful and make sure that the flapper's loose. You can undo the cable, the inner cable from the flapper, but oh my gosh, getting that back in there at our age, I mean, as
Yeah,
most of us are,
I recall, yeah, when I pulled the heater box, yeah, I recall having a great deal of difficulty putting that cable through the little tiny hole
yeah,
and
yeah,
tightening up
yeah.
that nut or bolt that's on it. It's just almost impossible.
I'm proud to say that when I was much younger and I was working at University Motors in London, I had to change that cable. And of course, all the pedals and the steering wheel are on that side in the car that I worked on, and I was successful. But that was then. I don't think I could do that today. I'm sure I couldn't
Okay.
do that today. So,
All right. No, thank you very much, John.
hey, you're very welcome. Do we have
Okay,
any more
John,
questions?
this is David
Yeah.
here.
Yes, sir.
Back on the tachometer that stays when you start the car, it stays at 0. And then after you drive a little bit, it'll flip
Just
up.
that's
Or you can tap it and get it
that's
to operate. What's causing that?
it's lack of lubrication, but you don't want to open up that and put any oil in it. You know, it's just faster to the starting sequence includes a little wrap on the glass with your knuckle. That's half, more than half of all MGBs do that. Okay, I mean you're not alone, and so I don't know exactly what, but it's some kind of stickiness in there. And if you were really good and you took that tack out and you took it all apart and you never touched the face, and you look in there and you get some really light machine oil and put it on the end of a toothpick and put the tiniest drop, because it's got two pivot points. There's an axle that goes through the frame, and then you got a can on there, and anyway, it's dicey. So I just keep tapping it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
John,
Yes, Tony.
I have I have a question. I was out of the room. Were you talking about oil being drawn up through the speedometer cable on a TD
Not
earlier?
necessarily a TD, but any of these cars, and it just depends if the cable's wound down so that it's screwing the oil back into the gearbox. But what happens if I don't know, it's wound the other way? I don't know. I'm not an expert in cable manufacturer, but if it's wound the wrong way, you're gonna screw oil from the gearbox up into the back of the speedo. And Bob at Neisinger used to say, yeah, we got another one of your Speedos here, and it's all packed full of oil and grease, and that's why it doesn't work. So,
Yep, I had the problem with my TD with doing that, and it was the speedometer pinion housing. Apparently, those are machined, and as they wear, they allow the oil to be drawn up. Because I had an oil leak on the right side of the engine, I couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and they discovered that. I did find something out of England where they did machine those and put an O-ring in there. I think from the frame up has them now. They bought mine for $50. I was trying to sell it for $5, the used one at Illinois, and nobody bought it. Luckily they didn't buy it. So, but anyway, they machine it and put an O-ring in there to stop that oil from going
yes.
up and interfering.
Yeah.
Yep.
John,
Yeah,
I
those
had this is Judd. I had my TD tack and speedometer rebuilt by Neisinger, absolutely gorgeous. Oiled the speedometer cable incorrectly and it turns the wrong way. And I got to pay him to do the whole job all over again because it was just completely full of oil. No fun. Be
Okay.
careful about how much you put in there. Use grease, it probably doesn't flow as much. I mean, you basically made an Archimedes screw.
Yep.
Hey, John.
Yes, sir. Barney.
Hey, the MGAs, all of them, and the early MGB 3 Senko gearboxes and early MGBs with a rev counter. They all have a little rubber oil seal at the input end of the cable in the speedometer drive and the tachometer drive.
Yes.
And you can use the same seal in either one of them. And I've never had any trouble with grease in my cables since I've changed those seals.
I've had a terrible time trying to figure out how to change those seals.
Well, I have the instructions on my website.
Okay. So everyone is reminded again to go to Barney's website, mgaguru.com, and a lot of the information on an MGA is the same as a T-type or a midget or anything else. Barney's also got about 15 pages of shops all around the United States that will, last time he was through, will work on your MG. So anyway, Barney, thanks for such a wonderful source of information.
John, this is Henry. Can
Yes,
you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, sir.
There is a cable lubrication tool that they use for motorcycle cables. You can see them on Amazon. They clamp on the end, one end of the cable, and then you can use an aerosol lubricant to inject it into the cables. I haven't used that, but I've been familiar with that. The reviews seem to be fairly good. Has anybody used that? It seems like that would help eliminate trying to extract your throttle cable or your a choke cable or a heater cable out of the car if you can lubricate it in place.
I I have seen those little things with rubber on the inside and screws and
Yep.
yeah, yep. I have seen, a matter of fact, I have one. I'm not sure
Yeah.
that I've ever used it.
Okay, it seems like they have fairly decent reviews. They're not that expensive, but literally
Yeah.
they clamp on.
Okay.
And it seems like that would be worthwhile to give it a try rather than
So
trying to
you
yank
on
cables out if you
yep,
can.
on Amazon you'd find this under bicycle brake cable lubricator.
Yep,
Okay. All right.
yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Great.
Thank
What's it
you.
called again, please?
Bicycle
It's called
brake
a cable
cable.
lube tube. Yeah, cable lubrication lube tool. Go onto Amazon. There's a couple models, and they use screw clamps to clamp it on the end of your cable, and then you should be able to spray in a lubricant. And how well they work, I don't know, but it seems pretty clever, and the reviews seem to be fairly decent. So it may be a way of avoiding some aggravation. I'm not sure if you're going to get the whole cable lubricated, but maybe it's enough if you can work it back and forth. But just an idea.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks. Thanks very much.
I've worked in the motorcycle industry my whole life, and I've used that luber many, many times. And 90% of the time, it works great. Sometimes it just shoots back out at you when it can't grip the inner cable too tightly. But I have one, and I've used it on my MG, and it works great.
And can you put the end of a oil can against that? And it seems to me mine takes an oil can. You can put a trigger oil can against it, and that's how you get a loop. Or
I don't think
yours are
so.
just
I've
aerosol.
only used it with the red straw on cable aerosol cans. They actually
Okay,
make a cable loop for the inside of cables uh, through
okay.
Honda, as a matter.
On
Put
But
put
it works
Amazon, it's
great.
referred to as an oil cabler.
Cable oiler. Yes, I believe.
put
Hey,
Anyway,
Correct.
same thing. And I've used it on my heater cables, and it just works great.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much.
hey,
Certainly.
this is Bob Whitfield.
Skip.
You can pick them up at motorcycle places too. I picked one up there. I haven't had a chance to use it, but you can just see it.
Okay. So we got bicycle shops,
I have
motorcycle shops. Excellent. Thank you. We got
I've also found that the Harley Davidson product for that works the best. I've used it on my vintage Harleys. I haven't tried it on my TD yet, but it seemed like the best product I came across comparing them was from Harley Davidson.
that's very kind. Thank you. Thank you very much. So we got a couple different places and cable oilers. Yep, very cool. Thank you. Any more comments about cables? We're going to go over to the chat section then.
Well, quickie,
Yes.
John, you were talking about adjusting the throttle cable and having two people so you could look out, and the
Yeah.
various reasons you gave for it not opening fully. One of the possibly overlooked ones is that your new carpeting has bunched up and the pedal won't go down.
Yes.
So that's just sort of an aside.
I went out to drive a TD the other day too for a test drive, and they the throttle position so that my foot had to go into a very unnatural position to get couldn't even get full throttle. The thing wouldn't get out of its own way. I'm not sure if it was a bad tune-up or just the fact that the throttle wouldn't open. And further on my comment about making sure that the throttle opens all the way is to make sure it doesn't open farther than all the way. And that is on the later model MGBs, 70, oh boy, where do they put that throttle, the throttle stop on the inside of the car? There's a pad there, so you can do it the other way, and that is to press the throttle all the way, have somebody sit inside, just hold it down all the way, and then you make sure that the carburetors are open all the way and tighten down the cable stop, and then let the pedal back up and then adjust the pedal free play after that. That probably is the proper way of doing that. And that is to make sure you've got full throttle, but it's really hard to hold the throttles open because you've got the springs pulling at you at the same time that the throttle cable is all the way open, and get that whole thing done without failing to get full throttle opening. So maybe it's a couple time at it, but at least we've talked about it. We didn't talk it. We haven't. This isn't about latches. This is about cables. But since T-types have come up here a couple of times, please, if you have a TD or a TC or a TF, um, open up the bonnet the next time and just paint the inside of those bonnet releases. Paint them with grease. Get a little acid brush and dip it into your grease and just grease the snot out of those things so they move easily. Grease and oil are your friends. So anyway, just an aside on T-types. Any other comments about cables, or we're going to go to chat?
Hey, John, this is Bill
Yes.
Thornton again.
Yes, sir.
I managed to get my technical issues sorted out. I had the question about the tachometer, but you've answered that already. So,
Okay.
I've bought a new throttle cable. I've got a Weber carb that was fitted a couple of 3 months ago, and the throttle cable I've got has got a nipple on each end. But with the Weber throttle link, you have to cut the nipple off the carburetor end. How do
Yes.
you stop the wire fraying?
By soldering it first.
Okay, that's what
You
I thought.
flux
Yeah,
flux and solder and put some of it on the end, and once it's all into place, then get your dikes, your side cutters, and snip that cable stop off the end of it. Yep.
okay, perfect. Thank you. Unless you know of a special link that's made for Webers that you can hook on the nipple that's on the end of the cable. I've
I
not
don't.
found one. I've been
I don't.
no. Okay.
But
All right. Thank you.
most Webers are installed backwards. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that the choke is towards the front of the car, and the throttle cable is at the rear of the carburetor. But then when you go to do any kind of adjustments, idle speed, mixture, you can't get a screwdriver back in there. It won't
Yeah,
fit.
exactly. Yeah.
So
I have that problem.
take the Weber off where it is, turn it 180. Now you need a longer cable, throttle cable, everything else
Yeah.
fits. But if you get
Yeah.
that sorted out, then you can go in there and just adjust it easy schmeezy. So wonderful. So,
Yeah. All right. Thank
Hey,
you.
okay.
hey,
All right.
John.
Yes,
John,
sir.
I left a link in the chat for a better kind of cutter they're called Felco cutters for cutting rigid wires like this. They do a
Thank
much
you.
better job than dikes. Yeah, it just
Okay.
doesn't crush it. It cuts it cleanly, and I've used them on boat wiring for
Okay.
years.
All right.
Super good.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so our first one here on chat looks like from Jim about his TD, I think. Just a moment here. I've got to work here. What's the recommended antifreeze for a stock MG? For those who have aluminum in the mix, I just default to Napa green ethylene glycol. That's what I use in everything. Ethylene glycol, just the green antifreeze. There's a lot of different antifreezes out there right now. The next question is ethylene glycol. Do you buy it 50-50 mix or do you buy it and mix it yourself? Well, those of us who are frugal would say, "Oh, I'll mix it myself," but then you're using tap water. And my guess is that when it's a 50-50 mix, it's mixed with distilled water or deionized water, one or the other. And it's probably a better product. But I just use that green antifreeze. I think that's the easiest all around. So. And here we got Marty's put up a link to David Knock at British Car Specialists. So if you're interested in that 1958 MGA coupe because you want an MGA coupe to restore, because you want good glass, because it's got good glass, because you want the door lock off it. Of course, you're going to have to buy the whole car. But anyway, he's got it. Robert Reed says, I was in Germany last week and saw a brand new MG, and they're both gas and electric. The new MGs, they're all over. So, and Phil here says, why not attach a wire or fishing line to the end of the cable when you pull it out of the sheath, just like an electrical fish tape? You could do that, absolutely, but then of course you got to attach it to the inner cable, and then you're going to get a lump way I'm thinking of it, you're going to get a lump too big to go down to go down the sheath. Usually, the choke and throttle cables, especially if they're new, you can pull them out and push them right back in again. But the old ones, you got to take the twists. Funny that I should use that word. The kinks and the twists out of the cable, and then of course it begins to splay, and then you got to solder it. And now, how can you solder old wire that's dirty? You can't. And now it gets more and more complicated. And although for an original choke and starter cable on a T-type or an MGA, I would never replace them with modern units. I'd take them out of the dash, get it out, and then take the inner cable out, replace that with a bicycle brake cable simply by soldering it, unsoldering the old one, and soldering in a new bicycle brake cable and running that the length. Oh my gosh, that makes it great. Oh, and I also forgot. There is an abutment, a cable abutment on an MGB 1962 through 1971, and that captures the outer sheath of the cable. No, it goes all the way through. Maybe not 74 and a half, maybe not the British spec ones, but the earlier ones. There's a cable abutment. You can buy that and put it onto a T-type, and it then no longer. That's why I put that picture in the constant contact mailer that came out to you. Then the cable no longer slips and it abuts. It's such a better system, and it's an MG part. So the guys who are complaining it's not original. You can say, well, at least it's still an MG part. So anyway, um, let's see. Just changing my background to the new MG, says Robert Reed. Okay. Um, what's the best way to cut the cable? Steve Shupak, thank you very much. We've got this wire cutter with a length that's about 400 characters long. But if you're looking for a good cutter, God, my plumber was here the other day and he was cutting PVC pipe with a really sharp blade. And it's like, how does that even work without crunching something? Uh, Judd says, "Oh, skip this one. The wheel didn't fall off, but it's just about to." Yeah, that was the worn out. Uh, there's no click on my TD handbrake, Bob Whitfield. So there's a clicker on the micram adjuster inside the rear wheel, and there is a ratchet on the handbrake that doesn't engage until you pull it up as high as you can and then press the button. Bob, are you still on there?
Yes, sir, I am.
Yeah, so what's not clicking?
Nothing's clicking on my handbrake. I just assumed that was normal. that there are no clicks. This is 1950,
Yeah, there.
so I just assumed that was normal.
Well, there's supposed to be a ratchet, which you can easily see at the bottom of the handbrake assembly, and it's a fly-off handle, so you can use it to slow the car down and be able to steer the car. Because if you put the brakes on, you can't steer it. You go into a skid. So it's a fly-off handle, and in the handbrake doesn't set until you press the button. So you pull it up as high as you can, press the button, and that sets the handbrake. Then to release the handbrake, you do not press the button. You just lift up on the handle, and the spring loading pops the pawl off the ratchet, and it falls down again. So if you're missing some of these pieces, you can certainly contact from the frame up. They might be able to help you in Phoenix, Arizona, because they do a lot of. It's not the same handbrake as a TC. It's the same idea, and Doug Pelton might be able to help you there.
Okay, I since I acquired the car with the fly off, which I understood and all that works perfectly, where in that system is that click mechanism? Is it back by the rear tires or is it in the handle?
Well, there's one right in the handle, right at the base of the handle. You can see it. It's right there. Looks like saw
Okay.
teeth. Looks like a sawtooth. So,
Yeah,
So
you don't
that
go
I may be
quicker if
missing
you
that.
press the button a little bit.
what's that,
When you
John?
Okay.
pull the handle, when you pull up the handle without putting a little bit of pusher on the button, you don't get any click
No, there
until
are
you
no
set
clicks.
it. But if you push the button down just a little bit, as you pull it up, you'll feel it clicking that paw against the button. Because like on the B, as you pull the handle up, it goes click, 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 click.
Yep.
On the TD, it doesn't unless you engage that paw just ever so slightly.
Okay, I'll try that and see if I need to do anything. Thank you.
If
Okay.
it'll set, you don't need to do anything, in my humble opinion.
Well, it
Okay.
may be the philosophy is if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, that's one way. So Blair Weiss writes in, he says, I got a call from a New England MGT register member, and they're assembling an XPAG, which is the X series engine that used on the T types, the T8, the TB through the TF. He's got leaking from the oil pump cover. He's tried giving it a little more tension on the bolts, but you got to be so careful. Those are 6 millimeter bolts. And anyway, he's got new bolts in the mail. When questioned about the condition of the covers, the matched mating surfaces on the cover, he started getting cagey. So I suggested calling me, since Blair had never had this issue. Um, but what we did when I build an X-Bag engine is I use the thinnest film of sealant, the right stuff or ultra black, just around the very, very, very outer edge. Not smeared all over the cover, not a quarter of an inch thick where it gets all in, gets gobbed into places it shouldn't go. Just the thinnest film. And then you put the cover back on and crank those bolts down to, oh boy, it sure isn't much, about 15 pounds. Those things are real long. It's a 6x1 metric thread on them. They'll snap in an instant. The original ones will. So you have to be so careful. Anyway, that's what I use is just a little bit of silicone sealant on them. You can certainly surface the cover of the oil pump on a piece of glass or any flat surface, 600 paper, something or other, and just scrub it on there until it goes flat. But the silicone sealant, some kind of sealant on there helps a whole lot too. So hope that helps a little
Excellent.
bit. If he calls, I'll be able to answer it real fast. So Jim Riley What about a sticking tack needle and that sharp? We already talked about that. It's a problem inside the tack. You can spend 150 bucks and send the tack out and have it repaired, or you can just use your knuckle for free. So let's see. Anyone else using a Bow Shield T9 waterproof lubrication? Removed the choke cable from the sheath, sprayed some on the cable, and now it slides like butter. So this is Bow Shield, Boeshield, T9 waterproof lubricant. I've never
It's
seen it before, don't know what it is, but SRC 1202 suggests that it might be really, really good.
Hey John, I've
Yeah.
used it for years. It's
Oh,
designed by Boeing.
oh,
Great
that's what the
stuff.
BOE is. Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And I think if I remember correctly, it kind of comes out kind of dry and waxy, so it's not real gooey.
Okay.
So until the can rusted from being in the bilge of the boat, it was great.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very kindly. And Marty Bradley's put in British Speedo here in Golden Bridge, New York. So I think they're just outside the city someplace. For those of you who want to get tax speedos, oil pressure gauges, which never fail anyway, safety gauges done. The question always is can he do um, the faces, the T types. Oh, that maybe it works okay, but the face it looks horrible. Getting the faces done is always the trick. Anyway, Bob Whitfield, how do you apply graphite to the speedo cable for a TD? Well, in the case of the TD, what I was suggesting is that you take it off the back of take the cable off the back of your Speedo, and then you can withdraw the inner cable, and then there's down on the other end, if you unscrew it from the gearbox, and if you were to put a, this is my idea, if you were to put a vacuum somehow onto that cable so there's some air going down through the cable and then take a little graphite puffer, puff 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 puff, it would eventually puff 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 down the cable. Will it go all the way through? I don't know how long are you going to do it? Don't know. And then when you take the cable and you put the cable back in, you're putting it the same way you put the graphite in. That's going to carry the graphite down the outer sheath. So that's what I would do.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And Phil Durden says, are you meaning graphite grease or graphite powder? And again, it's this prohibition to grease. So there's already something down in there. There's something in there. So I'm just talking about graphite powder. That's what I'm talking about. So Brad Schwartz, Mike, we need to know, Bradley, what year and model is your car? Brad Schwartz, are you still on? Calling.
Sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
It says 1600, 1600.
Oh, okay. So it's developed a softer clutch pedal and not enough slave rod travel. So there are three things on the clutch system. There are three components: the master cylinder, the flexible hose, and the slave. I mean, there's a steel line there too, and some banjos and some fittings. So call it four things. So it's if the slave leaks, it's bad. If the slave cylinder is bad, it leaks. So if it's not leaking, it's good. The hose, anytime you change the slave cylinder, you change the hose. Anytime you do the master cylinder, you should just, as a matter of course, do the slave and the hose. But I think your problem is probably the master cylinder. You can rebuild that in place. You do not have to take that out of the car because that's just a bugger. It's a bugger to do. So you can get the push rods out, undo the forks from the end and undo the push rods and take the front cover off. You take the front cover off now. pop the pistons out, and of course, all the fluid that's in the reservoir is going to fall through that hole onto your firewall into the inside of the car. So you got to account for that with rags and have that all set to go. Then use a 2 stone hone or a dingleberry brush, which is called a glaze breaker. But you can use that right down there, not a whole lot, but just back and forth a little bit, clean it out as best you can, put new seals on the master cylinder, put it all back together, and it'll work.
But the weird thing, John, is that this happened to me twice, and it was corrected twice by just draining a little fluid out of the slave cylinder. It's almost like air is down at the slave end of it. And I just don't understand how this is recurring.
Okay, all right. So if you're getting air into the system, if that is happening,
If that is happening.
it's not happening at the master cylinder, probably. But it could be at any one of the fittings. So you've got that fitting on the back of the master cylinder. There's a banjo bolt. There's a line in there. There's also a line that goes between a gland fitting that goes between the steel line and the hose.
Hose.
And there's also how the hose is attached to the slave. So it's got to have a copper washer there. Any one of those might be loose enough to draw air in, but not loose enough to push fluid out,
Oh,
counterintuitive.
okay.
But
So that's the answer then. So you
so
you think air can just get in?
hey, just
So,
you always do the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. So you're going to go through first of all and loosen, and then retighten every connection. You can't just tighten it because well, it feels tight. Is it? You don't know. Loosen it
right.
and then retighten it, and then bleed it again. And if it continues to happen, then go for the master cylinder. But it's unusual. Something's
Okay.
loose.
Thank you.
Okie doke. And here we got Jay Rutan, who says he had the similar situation. And so he's in, and Brad, oh, and Brad, you've already answered him. All right. Phil, I haven't used him, but I understand MoMA Manufacturing in Albuquerque services all types of gauges, even very antique ones. I guess that would be us. Or it would be Milton Babarak's chronometric. So MoMA, the MO is for Morris, and the MA is for Margaret. They opened up there. Morris moved on later on, and he now runs West Valley Instruments. And the last time I talked to somebody about West Valley Instruments, they said they were backed up 6 months. I don't know, long time. So anyway, there are several places around the United States where you can have instruments rebuilt, but apparently not John Wolfe in Ohio, according according to Bob and Gloria. So maybe he's timed out. So MoMA, I've used them before. And Steve Shupak says, here's a great place to get a quarter-inch drive BA socket wrench set. And he's got an eBay link here. Um, a lot of those BA sockets are made in Spain. Why would they be made there? Well, I don't know. Anyway, $27. So it's real nice. The BA runs from 0 up to 8, probably goes beyond that. But the kits that I've seen, two most common BA sizes that we use, BA stands for British Association Machine Screw Thread. The most common one is 2BA, and that's a 3/16 shank with a metric pitch, I think a 0.82 metric pitch on it, which ends up at about 31 and a half threads per inch. So 1032 is an exact copy for that. It works great. There is no hardware substitute for 4BA. You see 5BA on the nuts on the sending units on MGAs, 3BA on instruments. I don't know where I see 1BA. But the two easiest ones are a quarter inch and 5/16. So that's the 4 and the 2BA. So you don't really absolutely need a socket set. But if you're into tools, there's always an excuse to buy a tool. Then that's a good place. That's probably someplace like that I got my last set. Here we go. John Lynn says tips for troubleshooting persistent short on the number two fuse controlling the dash instruments and turn signals. So this is John's suggestion to us, and he's oops. Oh my God, what did I do? Oh, here I'm back. Oh my gosh, I thought I'd zeroed something out here. Before digging into the dash, I double checked the wiring from the shifter to the backup lights. The clips securing the wires failed, and the connector for the wires leading to the rear drooped and were affected by the heat from the exhaust pipe. So disengaged the connector, wrapped both sides in electrical tape, secured the wiring to the body for the time being. The problem solved. Will be an easy fix to replace the connector this weekend. In the meantime, the dash is operating properly. So, well, good. It's finding an erratic problem, an erratic short is always problemsome because put the new fuse in, shake all the wires, you do everything, bounce the car, shout at it, everything, nothing happens. You go out and you drive it 3 blocks and the fuse pops. And of course, you don't want to use a penny, can't use a penny, but you don't want to use a jumper wire because the fuse is there to protect the circuit. So yeah, sometimes it takes a long time to sort out what an erratic. There are common places for shorts, but Mr. Meisel, I bought a new interior panel kit from Moss for my 1980 MGB. It came with hardware that has clips. I'm wondering if anyone has installed that and what those clips are for and where do they go now? I don't know. Meisel, are you on? Are you still on? You got one of those clips you can show us?
He's on, but he doesn't have a mic.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Oh, too bad. Um, I just saw a later model MGB installed with the same kind of screws that the earlier MGs used. Just a series of screws around the circumference rather than hidden screws, which they did later on. But you can text me a picture of that, and you call me tomorrow, and I'll talk to you about those clips. Pat Guest. John mentioned a 90-degree elbow for running an MGA transmission cable. Can he review that again and what were the part numbers? So there's a 90-degree drive that's used on all the MGAs, so you don't have to have a long loop on the speedo cable. There isn't a 90-degree on the MGA. That is just a loop down there. It comes out on an angle anyway. So there isn't one. It's just on an MGB and an MGC. Sean, when you recommended greasing the innards of the TC bonnet latches, is that with your usual red grease? Of course, but you got a white car and you put red grease on there. Yuck. Nah, I'd use some kind of white grease. I'd just use some kind of clear grease or white grease, something that matches the car. If you got a red car, red grease. So anything, everything that moves, hinges, seat slides, anything that moves wants grease and oil. Absolutely. Ian says, "Hey John, I wanted to ask a question in regards to my three-synchro transmission with passive grinding noise at certain times." Well, this is interesting. Ian, are you still on?
Hello, John. Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, okay. So when do you get a grinding noise?
Well, I've been struggling with it for about the past 600, 700 miles,
Okay.
and it usually occurs in what I'm hearing mostly in third and fourth gear.
Fourth. You're sure it's in fourth?
I do hear it. I do hear it a lot going into fourth. But the bizarre thing is I will get into gear and it'll get into gear relatively easily. So there's no hesitance. It doesn't slip out of gear. But once it's in gear and I'm letting out the clutch, and the clutch has been let out for about maybe 3 seconds or so, I'll hear this just it's this passive skip grinding noise, and it's pretty distinct if you know what you're listening to, and it'll just skip, 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 and it's very bizarre to me, but it's getting to where depending, how often I'm driving it, I'll hear it not very much in colder temperatures, which I don't know if that has any relevance, but it's just very bizarre to me, and I can't seem to get a solid answer on what the problem could be.
You don't
And the
you don't
funnier
you
thing is
you,
that
you don't have overdrive.
I do not.
Okay. All right. So noises, just we'll just talk about some noises. When the clutch is all the way released, there's no more noise that can come out of the clutch, right? I mean, you got the clutch part way depressed or something, then stuff can happen. But once your foot's all the way off the clutch, all the way off, then there's no noise that comes out of the clutch. Noises that come out of the gearbox, you've checked the oil, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hey, that was the cheapest, easiest, simplest stuff first. So, so if the lay shaft is wearing badly, and they can be just horrid. It makes a horrible noise in first, second, and third, but
Okay.
not fourth. And that you get that speed, and you get that at speed. It isn't just an occasional, like three, just for, after you let out the clutch or after you get going. I mean, it's there all the time because
Right.
the lay gear is no longer sitting parallel with the main shaft. One end's dropped. Plus, you've torn
Okay.
up all these bearings and so forth. So there is noise that comes off that. There's no other noise I can think of that comes out of the gearbox. The differential, um, if there's a misalignment through age, whatever, between the crown wheel and pinion, it'll make a whoa, whoa, whoa sound, as you're accelerating or running smoothly. But usually a diff noise is really particular in that it makes noise on acceleration or deceleration, not both, one or the other, rarely at free float, when you're just sort of maintaining your speed. So I don't know. I'm interested to find out more about. Have you drained the gearbox yet to see if there's any bits of anything?
I did actually recently. When I bought the car back in March, I had drained the fluid then and just decided to go through all the fluids since I didn't know since they were last changed. And I put in, and that was about, I guess, roughly March. I put in Castrol 20W50, and that's what I saw was recommended. And I ran that for the next couple thousand miles. I probably drove it another 4,000 miles, maybe, three and a half roughly. And then in the last, like I said, 700 miles, I've been hearing this noise. And so I said, okay, it's getting worse. So I'll drain the gear oil. Maybe there's something there. And
Okay.
I did. And I did notice a heavy amount of metal shavings. But I did run a magnet through it and it didn't pick them up. So then I assumed they were brass. And so I don't know if that could be an indicator of something, but I haven't done much research since then. But I also put in new gear oil. I decided to try the Redline MT90 as
Yeah.
well, and I
Okay.
put that in.
Okay. Of course, there's always a chance of getting grinding when you're changing gears, right? Because the
Right.
synchronizers aren't working. But this is not that you said. It slips
Yes.
into gear okay, and it's after you're in gear. I got to think about this. Call me tomorrow. Let me
Sure
just
thing. Sure thing.
John,
sure.
John, it's Tim Smith.
Yes.
What about the clutch release bearing touching because it's badly adjusted?
Well, that's why I said, once your foot's off the clutch, once your foot's off the clutch, it shouldn't make any noise unless,
How
and
about the
he
shifter?
didn't say this, but unless, is your foot's just starting to press down or just starting to come off, you get a vibration off the clutch pedal. There should be zero vibration off the clutch pedal. But once your foot's off the clutch, it shouldn't make any more noise. So,
How
If I
about
may, oh, I'm
how
sorry.
about the shifter rattling?
Gil, are you on? Gil?
How about the shifter when? How about the shifter rattling? With no that
Well,
no
if his gear shift was rattling,
shifter will
so yeah, you can always grab the gear lever and see if that makes any difference at all. You always want to do the diagnosis before you take the engine and gearbox out. Of course, if you got metal shavings in there, then of course you said they weren't brass, but or they weren't steel. But before you before you take it out, you want to get it diagnosed as best you can. So you always sit in the driveway and just rev it up and down. I mean, up to 3 grand, 4 grand, real slowly and back down again, in case it's the friggin' exhaust. That you just oh my gosh, it turns out it's exhaust. Grab a hold of the gear lever. Is there any noise out of that? Any wood gear shift knob gives a lot of noise, just because it amplifies the noise. The original ones were phenolic, and they just didn't seem to do what the wood ones do. If there's a problem with a wood one, you can spin it off, put a little squirt of silicone sealant on the threads and up inside the knob, spin the knob back on, and get it aligned and tightened, and that usually dampens the noise off the gear knob. But call me tomorrow and just see what's going on.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, John. I'm a younger enthusiast, just trying to figure everything out on the car, so I
Where
appreciate
you,
it.
sounds like you're from West Virginia. Where are you from?
I'm from Georgia.
Okay, well, I'm close. Okay.
Well, there you go.
Hey, John, Jan said he put MT90 in
Yeah,
the MT gearbox,
yeah,
and I've often wondered about that. I think it calls for motor oil,
it
and
does.
you've often said that that the gear oil and the motor oil, even though the numbers are different, have the same viscosity. Do other people put 90 weight in their MG
Well,
gearbox?
this MT90 stuff, and it's supposed to be a lot of people. You talk to somebody and they'll say, "Oh man, dude, I straightened out my gearbox and I put this MT90 in there, and it shifts. It's like butter. It's never felt so good." I've never tried this stuff myself. I can't vouch for it myself. I probably should someday, but I haven't. But Ian has, but he's still got this noise. So, yep.
Yeah, I've definitely it's funny when I read so many forums about people discussing Castrol 20W50 and MT90 before doing it, and it was just there's so many different perspectives on it, and a lot of
Really.
people, well, you need to just put the 20, and so you hear so many different things, but frankly, coming from somebody, I drove the car several thousand miles with 20W50, and I've driven it probably another 500 miles now with the MT90, and I really don't notice a lot of a difference. It's still
Thank,
relatively the same.
thank you. That's I
So
I
it's
can't help
definitely
but
interesting.
I can't help but think it just doesn't make sense that you put some
Yeah.
oil in it, it shifts better and sounds better. But you know that if you spend all day and polish your car, it runs better. It's quieter.
Yeah.
So if you change oil, obviously there's going to be some change. Anyway, call me tomorrow, and I'll see what I can come up with.
John,
Sure
that
thing.
might be known as the placebo effect.
It might, Doug. It might. It might. Here we got the Bow Shield T9 waterproof lubrication. We've got this again here, so that's good. And Rob Kuhn says I had the same problem. Did everything John said. Changed changed the slave cylinder, put a new slave on, and it fixed the problem. So this must be going back to that problem with the soft clutch, getting the air into the cylinder. Um, Ben Andrews says, has anyone come up with an emergency cable release for an MGB boot? Um, no, no. Last time I looked at one, it was quite a contraption, and to get a cable stuck in the boot lid and T-handle and the bulkhead. So um, the easiest way, if first of all, is don't get it stuck, right? I mean, geez. But if you go about that far and about that far beneath the push button, immediately 6 o'clock beneath there, you put a little prick punch and drill a little tiny 1/8 inch hole through your boot lid. Oh, you never see it. You'll never see it. You can put a wire through there, a stiff wire, a coat hanger wire, something or other, and it pops open right there. So that's the only way. Then that's a tip from Paul Deershaw at Sports Car Craftsman in Denver, Colorado, where I suggest is an excellent place to get used parts. So Marty also says uh, it's got John's quick guide to noises, sounds of the MGs, zizzes, clunks, rattles, and ticks. And she's is that up on our website? Yep, that's up on our website now. So that's because there's a lot of there's a difference between a clank, a clunk, a clonk, a clack. There's it's hard to put into letters all the sort of noises come out of an MG. But my favorite noise was when Winnie Berry called me. She had a 79, I think about a 79 russet brown midget 1500. And she calls me up and says, John, my car's making a sound like a chicken. I said, Wendy, I am game. Drive it down. Let's see what's going on. And we drove it down Sherman Street, which never got didn't get resurfaced until we just about moved out of the shop. It always got repairs, so there's always lumps in the road. It was a perfect test drive track. And every time we'd go over a bump, it'd go cluck, 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 cluck. So in fact, that's a loose uh, um, connection between the shock, the shock link and the plate at the rear axle. So anyway,
John, don't forget about the tonk. The tonks.
Tonks. Hey, there's yeah.
I have a question, John, if I can interrupt.
Yes.
Okay, I have a 78 MGB. I had a clutch issue a while ago, so I depressed the clutch all the way and I couldn't shift the gears. And I finally figured out that I was pressing too far. And I got it to the point that I pressed the clutch down enough to switch the gears, and I have no issues with that. But what I've been finding is that my clutch pedal has been coming up. So originally it was parallel or in line with the brake pedal, but now it seems to be riding a bit higher. Anything that would cause something or something I got a concern with? I can shift gears without any trouble.
What sort of master cylinder is in there?
It's a replacement, but it's the Lucas one, the silver one.
Okay.
The other one.
There's a clip on the front of that. The length of the push rod. The length of the push rod on the master cylinder controls the height of the pedal. And that's the problem with some of the ones that look like it came out of a stick shift Subaru or something or other, the plastic ones. Is that the pedal sits too low and you can't get enough movement out of the master cylinder piston to displace enough fluid. So the reason that your pedal's higher is there's a clip in there. There is a clip, and if that clip came loose, then the pedal might rise as much as 1/2 inch, maybe more. And so this is what year?
78.
78. Oh, this is a bugger. So you got to take the cover off the master cylinder box with about 40 Phillips screws up there. I have no idea why. It
Yeah.
must have been the screw salesman who came in when they were designing that. And then look at the master cylinder, and there's a boot on the master cylinder. Peel that boot back and see if the clip is popped out. That's the only reason that I can think of why the pedal would come up higher. So,
Okay.
a
But
mechanical
if I
problem.
can shift and I don't have any issues with it, it's something I should be concerned with, or that clip's got, I guess the clip's there for a reason, though.
If it happened by itself, yes, there's a cause for concern. But if it happened at the same
Yeah.
time someone installed a new master cylinder, no.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Hey, you're very welcome. Let's see. And Ryan Kubinoff, question about the brown wire on a 25D distributor. Can be replaced with any wire, or do I need anything specific? So Ryan, are you still on?
Yeah, I'm still on. So basically what the issue is, one of the guys in our club's got a 78B.
Okay.
Was wiggling around. The car it wouldn't start, like it would start and then it would stop. So his comfort level is literally just wiggling the wire at the battery.
Okay.
So he called me when he was like, yeah, he had basically pulled the wire out of the coupler for the battery, and we still couldn't get it to start. We checked, and I found that he had no spark. So I traced it back to the distributor, and the brown cloth wire that goes to his distributor, apparently it was switched to a 25D4 previously. But when I checked that brown wire that goes to, I don't have to know what it's called, but the brown wire,
Yeah.
there was no wire. It was just cloth.
Okay. So there are two wires there. One's a ground wire, one's a power wire.
Yep.
It could be either one, but convince your buddy to take his distributor out and send it to one of the two distributor guys.
And that's
okay. All right.
Yeah. No, I just didn't know if it was something that whether I send it to
Advanced distributor Jeff Schlemmer or Rob
Yeah.
Medinsky at British Vacuum Unit. Yeah.
Yeah, I sent mine to Jeff on my midget and came back, did a great job. But yeah, I was just kind of curious if it was something that that I could easily just replace the wire and be done with for now, or
Both
just
those
get 'em-
wires are really flexible, so they've got very tiny wire diameters and a bunch of wires. So you can't take like a 16 gauge wire and get it. It just there's not enough room unless you're really handy with a soldering iron and stuff like that. But
Okay, that'll work. Thanks for the info. Appreciate it.
Or you can buy the parts. It's called the LT lead, the low tension lead. Yep.
Okay.
So, okie doke.
Is that fused in any way, or is that
No.
because is there a
No.
connection between him wiggling the wires and now this thing not
No.
just coincidental?
No, just apparently coincidental. And no, that distributor's hooked up to the rear side, the negative side of the coil, with the other white with black wires. So, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Much
sir.
Appreciate it.
All right. And here we got Richard Pittenger, who wonders if he should vent his battery, which is mounted in his boot, which is a bad place to put the battery. Richard, are you on?
Yes, yeah, John.
All right.
No, it's not in the boot now.
Oh, it's underneath the car?
Well, it's in the compartment behind the passenger seat.
Yeah,
as original right now.
Yeah,
It's just I'm getting ready to store the car, and I like to take the battery out and keep it in my garage for the winter.
Okay.
It's kind of a pain to put in and take out. I've been toying with the idea of putting it in the trunk. But
if
it
the
needs
worst
to be
case,
vented.
if you're going to take it out of the car, I bring it home. But to get it out of the car, you undo the back of the top, flip the back of the top up so you're leaning over the car, not leaning over the seat. Then take the cover off and then take the clamps off. Take two pairs of vice grips and grab the posts and lift it straight up out. So that's the easier way to get that back in and out. And then make sure that when you put it back in, that you have identified the terminals, because if you put it in backwards, you'll let all the smoke out of the alternator. And then
Yeah.
you have to buy a new alternator.
Well, they're well marked on the battery
Okay,
itself.
good. All right.
I I guess you're not a fan of putting it in the trunk.
No, no, no.
Okay.
John, could you
I think
give some advice about batteries for MGA?
Group 26. Group 26 fits right in the box, but the box is 7 1/4 by 7 1/4, and the battery's a little bit longer than that. So if you just put it in there, you got a sharp piece of metal coming up on the bottom of the battery, and it will chafe against the bottom of the battery. So take a piece of plywood, 3/4 inch plywood, 7 1/4 by 7 1/4. How does he remember all these numbers? 7 1/4 by 7 1/4, and put some tarry stuff on that. Put it down inside the battery box, and that Group 26 battery will fit in there just lickety split. You should tie it in at least with a bungee cord, if nothing else, But that's a Group 26 battery on the passenger
Okay.
side.
I don't know what size I had, but I had to tilt mine at almost at a 90-degree angle to get it in and out.
Sure, sure.
Is that true also with the Group 26? I don't know.
I don't think so.
You have to tilt.
I don't
You
think
think it
so.
just drops straight down? Okay, thank you. I'll look at that.
All right. Okay.
John, can you handle one more on a choke cable?
Yes.
My choke cable was frayed, and so I replaced it, but it pulls very, very difficult now. It's almost impossible to move
What year? What
jets.
model?
53 TD.
Okay, so the choke cable is supplied is what, about 6 foot long. It's way too long. I just a minute. I got to hit the mute all button. There, I think I've got hit mute all. So I need you to say something again about your choke cable, so I can see you. So you get unmute yourself and there. Okay, all right, Bob. All right, so the cables as supplied is way too long. So you've got to shorten the outer sheath. You can't do that without pulling the inner cable all the way out, or else you're going to cut that too. So make that cable as short as you can, and use the cable abutment. I'm here, just a minute. I got to walk away from the screen for a minute, and let me show you a really cool trick. Okay, I'm back with my AKD 3227 parts book, and I'm looking at page D1, I think. These parts books are they are essential for, I mean, look, well, here, just a minute. I had a picture of it I had a picture on in the constant contact. It's the cable abutment. It's the cable abutment that goes for the choke cable on the MGB, and you can use that as to hold the outer cable from slipping forward. I don't know where it is. It was in that constant contact mailer. If you've still got that on your email, open that up and take a look at that picture, because I sent that distinct picture. Anyway, make your choke cable as short as you can. Don't make it too short. Don't make it too short. Maybe you got to cut twice. But anyway, get it as short as you can, and then it'll work just really easily. If it still doesn't, because the link between the two brass arms won't move easily, then grab a hold of that, yank it back, paint the jets with grease, and work them back and forth so that that whole assembly moves easily. But usually it's the length of the new cable because if it's too long, you can't pull that for love nor money.
How do you paint the linkages with grease or the jets with grease? Do I have to get inside, coming through, take the air cleaners off and go inside?
Oh, little, no, you can see in
Take
there. You can see, or you
take the
can
nut
use an
off.
oil can. You use an oil can with just oil it up. You can do
Okay.
that too.
All right. Thank you.
All right. So I can't say, well, I can look at the detail. Look at the detail in this picture. I mean, it's just and it's this book. It's this is the MGB, the AKD 3227. These are available on CDs from the MG Owners Club out of England. Sometimes Marty and I have some extra copies around. It's just so but it only goes up through about 65. Lots of the MGB doesn't change. A lot of it stays the same right through the end. And it's so wonderfully handy to see how everything fits together. I mean, you got a workshop manual that tells you how stuff does, and there's little tiny pictures, but to see a great big picture, oh my gosh, it is so wonderful. I'm so let me just look this up. Choke cable, choke control. Oh, no wonder it wasn't in D. It's in page A18. It's under engine. Why would it why why wouldn't it be under engine? A18. So here we have the choke cable. Let me get this in line here. The choke cable abutment, and we're looking at this little guy right up here. I think that takes the choke cable of the abutment right here. You can find that in the Moss Motors catalog under MGB and get it for your TD, and it works great. So. Anyway, and if you got any questions about that, call me tomorrow and I'll send you some pictures or sketch something out for you. Call
No,
me or
thanks
text me or
much.
something. So,
Appreciate it. Thank you,
yep,
John.
absolutely. All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank everybody for being here. Um, and Marty, thank you very much for putting up 100 things online today. Um, now it's time for Doug Clark to give me what his official number was.
John, I counted 184.
Okay. Marty, what do you think? You think that's about right?
I concur, 184. But we had a lot of people in and out. There were 201 different people, but
Oh my gosh.
184 at one time.
All right. Okay. So
A lot of
201
newcomers today.
individuals. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hey, all right. That's a pretty high number for cables. For cables.
That
Go
was my
figure.
topic, I think. I think I suggested this one.
Okay. All right. So we're Doug. Let's have our hat competition. I got one that's you're not expecting.
All right. Well, John, when we used to have vacation property up in northern Michigan, every year there was a car show, a car club out of Traverse City, Michigan, called the Twin Bay British Car Club.
Yes.
And uh, they have this is their hat, and you can see that has
Oh yeah. Okay.
the twin, the west arm and the east arm of Grand Traverse Bay.
Okay.
And and every year they would have a sports car show in a little town on northeast of Traverse City called just off of Torch Lake, which according to National Geographic is the second most beautiful lake in the world. Now, but if you ever go up there and you see the water is turquoise. Anyway, they have every year they have a sports car show there, British, Japanese, German, everything, and sometimes they feature certain marks. And In 2013, the T-type was featured. In 2013, the T-types were featured. One year they had like Spitfire, another year MGBs, and they had it's a sports car show, and it's in Alden, Michigan, which is a little town, like I say, right on Torch Lake. And anyway, this is their club, the Twin Bay British Car Club.
Very cool.
Jaguars, Triumphs, Lotus, everything. So that's my contribution for the night, John.
Okay. All right. So I decided that I would surprise you with my hat. This is my hat from the Dunn and Company, right? So this is an original hat that I bought in probably 1975, and I've kept it. It's still my same hat, but the manufacturer's Dunn and Company. This is called the Clipper, made in Scotland. And Dunn and Company was sold men's
Yeah, they were
what
men's store,
accoutrement,
menswear.
men's
Yeah,
yeah, but
accoutrement.
it was fancy. They didn't sell, maybe they sold shirts, but they sold belts and ascots and canes and umbrellas and
John,
hats.
I'm gonna one up you. Just a minute. I got something from Dunn.
He's got that deer stalker from Dunn and Company. I've seen it. Okay. Hey, he's got to run away here for a minute. Anyway, thanks everybody for
Yeah,
being on
John, this
tonight.
is something. This is a
That's your deer stalker?
a plaid waistcoat
Oh my.
from Dunn and Company.
Oh, okay.
Piccadilly Circus.
That's where I bought this. That's where I bought this.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So we should open our own menswear with rather rather limited inventory.
If
I also have a.
if I was going to open another
I also
business,
have.
I think I'd work on MGs. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I have a bowler also from Dunn and Company.
Where's that? I thought the deer stalker that you had was from Dunn.
No, that was not.
Okay.
That's the bowler I bought in London, 1988. Dunn and Company, made in Britain. It says on it.
Okay.
So
All right.
that's a good thing. So in case I ever want to audition for the remake of the Avengers in the next John tweet, I'd be all set.
All right. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. It's been a real pleasure tonight. We still have 86 hard. No, it's dropped dramatically. 75 now. 73. Oh, there you go. Bob and Gloria, never heard from you tonight. You guys have been quiet, but thank you.
Here. All of the stadiums, I wonder that.
Thank you, John.
So, Richard,
Thanks,
thank
John.
you. Yep.
Good Zoom, John. Thanks a
I'm
lot.
going back
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
gallery view. Just want to say good night to everybody. Thank you very much. Thanks everybody. Milton, it's very nice to see you on tonight. Gosh, John Clark, see you sometime soon. Friday, certainly.
Session.
So Greg
John,
Glasser, oh my
we-
gosh, I see you on. So yeah, nice. Jim Pastore's on tonight, all the way from Altoona, PA. So somebody just came up about State College the other day. I can't remember what it was. Tom Gunderson, nice to see you. So Ian, nice to talk to you tonight. Always nice to see a face that's younger than 75, you know?
Well, I turned 20 in a few days, so
Hey,
I'm hoping
good for
as I
you.
get older, I'll get a little more wisdom.
Hey, well, yeah, that comes, and you'll end up with more MGs too. So, all right.
That's right. Well, being
start.
19 now, I'm already on my third MG, so I must be doing something right.
Hey, very cool.
That's a great start.
John, Gloria, and I have replaced every cable you talked about tonight.
Okay.
So we had nothing.
Right.
We had nothing to add. Over the all the miles, you start
Okay.
replacing things.
The heater cable is definitely the hardest.
Oh.
That's where.
I just
That's
put
where.
That control thing that you have to
Yeah.
That's where.
to the
That's
the
where
footwell.
Gloria comes in.
Yep.
I'm too old to get down there anymore.
Anybody older than 91?
Who is that?
78.
Who's older than 91?
Who's 90?
Who is that? Who
Gil
played-
Dupree.
Oh, Gil. Hey, that's real
Gil
sad.
Dupree.
Yep. I was oh, Chattanooga Choo Choo. Come on, he just passed away. Uh,
Been a few years since we've been to that show.
no, come on, uh, Gil. I saw you post on Facebook about. I'm blank on his name. He had a stroke. He had a stroke, and
Bryson
yeah, Bryson
Leslie.
Leslie. Bryson. Oh my gosh, what a peach of a guy. Oh my God, how sad it was to lose him. A real MG
He was
enthusiast.
93.
Okay.
Hey, Barney, it was nice talking to you at the MG's on the Rocks. I got the tour of your trailer. That was that was interesting. It does look like a coffin.
Oh, we've been getting the MGs on the rocks every year for several years
Yeah,
now. It's a nice
yeah,
show.
yeah. I usually see you there. It was enjoyed that.
Well, again, thank you very kindly. And when's our
Good night,
next
everyone.
Zoom? Our next Zoom will be, I'm just taking a look at my calendar right now. I can't promise. It might be as early as next week. We might wait until the 10th. We might wait until the 10th. So there's a 2 weeks there. So anyway, thank you very, very
John,
kindly.
I'm gonna have to call you, John. I got a question. A friend wanted me to ask you about. He wants to use a rear clip from a chrome bumper to put on his 69. He said that requires some work. I'm not
That's
sure
you
how you
got to
want.
you got to know what you're doing. That's that
Yeah.
unibody, getting everything lined up. Just go out and buy another car. Come on.
Well, he's got the original clip. He said it had some bondo, but he said it's a nice shape.
Hey,
I think
hey,
that's what he should do that.
my landlord where I am, he and his brother, I bet they fixed 20 totaled MGBs, clipped them, straightened them out, changed stuff on them, back in the day, so that the clipping them was a deal. But boy, today, and you think about all the work that's involved, but hey,
Well, my friend's got a 69, and he just want to buy it and fix it up. Well, then he take one step. Well, might as well go to the next.
He
When he's
brought up the might
done,
as well.
it's going to be a pristine MGB, and he could have bought a pristine MGB for a lot less money.
that's not the issue. The issue is doing it. The issue is doing it.
It's
Yeah,
always the journey.
yeah. Well, he's having a good time too. We're going to
Oh,
wire it
that's
for him.
hey. Some people put their cars in the garage. They never drive them. I had one customer, you talked to him, and MG was the most important thing in his whole life. And I went out to see his car one time. It was in the barn, hadn't moved probably in 50 years. It was a squirrel's nest, literally.
Oh
He's just
man.
all effusive about his great MG. And it's like, and the other people, I had customers that come in, and I had one guy used to call me and he says, "Oh, my MG doesn't work." And I said, "What's the matter with it?" He goes, "I don't know. You figure it out." He says, I do weddings, you do MGs. So, hey. Anyway, it's
We get that a lot.
yep.
We get people who call, I haven't driven it in 3 years. Turns out it's more like 15 years. And more is wrong with it
Oh
than
yeah.
what they say.
Oh yeah.
But then we were at a show in Carthage one time, and a guy next to me had an MG. I'm not kidding you. It looked like it came out of the showroom. So when they start calling out who won what prizes, I didn't even go over there. Turned out he took second place. I took first place. And I turned to him and I said, "I'm so sorry." He said, "No, I never drive my MG. You drive yours."
Okay.
And that, yeah, it's popular vote. So
Yeah.
you can be a 20-footer and win a prize.
Yeah, I had a guy with MGBLE in our summer parties. We'd have, I don't know, you get a row of 20 MGBLEs. I mean, there's no one that's better than another. They all look the same, and uh, and he came up to me grousing. He goes, "I can't, I've been here two different times and I get fourth place. How can I get first place?" And I said, bring some girls in bikinis and hand out beer. I mean, what else are you going to do? And the next year he brought two girls with bikinis, but he says, I wear a collar. He said, I can't hand out beer. That would be too much. He could handle
Did he
the
win?
girls in the bikini. Yeah, he got a second place. He still didn't get a first. So anyway,
Should have had three girls.
yeah, yeah. All right. Well, anyway, thank you. Ladies and
night,
gentlemen,
John.
thank you
Good
very, very
night.
much. It's been a
Thank
real
you, John.
pleasure.
Thank you,
Good.
Wendy.
Enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Night,
Thanks
John.
for all the donations. Marty, I'll talk to you real soon. John Clark, see you on Friday, if not before. So see everybody then. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thanks,
John, I'll
John.
try and call you tomorrow.
Okay, do it. Do it. Yep. And drive your MG. Drive your MG. I'm going to drive mine tomorrow.
Already on it.
Set up that day for Glenn's in St. Petersburg. I'll be there.
Oh, yeah. All right. I will. I'll get that sorted out with him. See ya.
Good night.
Good
Have a
night.
good night.